Welcome back, boys and girls, to another Carnage House production. I have with us today a very good friend of mine, an American. He's got the Clinton Gore 96 hat on, so you can tell from which side of the fence he's coming from. He's a massive NRL supporter, but he's an American. So to kind of check in with our American correspondent, Kieran Cohen. Kieran, thank you so much for coming on.
Mr. Cameron, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me, sir.
No worries at all. We believe in diversity of opinion on this show and on this channel. So that's why we've got the Clinton Gore fanatic here, the New York Yankees. He's an East Coast liberal elitist.
West Coast.
West Coast.
Big difference.
Big difference. He's in the Yankees jersey though. I think that is East Coast, isn't it?
That is East Coast, yes.
Yeah, so he's a bit confused maybe about where he is.
I'm throwing curveballs left and right, mate. I may not be a Clinton supporter. You just don't know.
Okay, we'll find out.
Got my red hat in the closet.
That's it.
Maybe.
All right, now we're going to talk about a couple of things today, but there's obviously a lot of pressing and I would say emotionally charged issues in America going on at the moment. And it's one of the interesting times where sports and politics are overlapping and quite extensively. So you've got a situation now in America where professional athletes are considering boycotting or not playing games in order to protest systemic or racial injustices. So what we've had is, obviously, as a lot of people would have recognised, the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, sparked primarily because of the death of George Floyd, who died as a result of kind of injuries to his neck and to his heart as a consequence of police using what many described as excessive force in his arrest. And obviously that set off a string of riots, many of which were peaceful, some of which were not so peaceful in the US across a whole range of cities. And then from that, you also had quite a few protests here in Australia as a consequence of the resurgence of the Australian Black Lives Matter movement, which is largely a kind of an Indigenous protest. Kieran, to get just your overall reaction, how do you feel about, what's your reaction towards the movement in general?
I think the movement is a positive thing that is happening in our country at the moment, especially with the poor leadership we have had in the last 4 years, sorry to say. I also think that it's a time where, especially with social media and everyone has the ability to have their own voice, that people are actually finally being able to get heard, being able to be heard. And I think that these communities and the Black community especially have been oppressed for many years and have felt that they haven't been heard, and that finally, because everyone has a camera on their phone, that these attacks from the police on these people, and I wouldn't say innocent people, but I would say these people are finally being recorded and broadcasted to the rest of the world. And going back to what you said with the NBA, I think these athletes are frustrated and confused on why there's been no sort of progression and change, at least with even with the Breonna Taylor thing, you see every day on Instagram and stuff, why haven't these cops been arrested? Why haven't they been charged with murder? I feel like they just want some sort of change. And I support the Black Lives Movement. I think that their lives matter. I also think everyone's lives matter. It's important for both sides to come together and finally have peace. And it's sad as a country that people look up to, especially America, where even our own people say it's the greatest country of all time, that we're still having these terrible issues happen, and there's just no sort of change happening, at least in my eyes and a lot of other people's.
Okay. Do you think that the attention that's being brought to this is representative of the actual extent of the problem? And what I mean by that is it proportionate? So, I mean, you're having riots across the United States, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage from vandalism, looting. Several police officers have died as a consequence.
Correct. Yes.
Is the reaction proportionate to the problem?
Well, it's funny you say that because just to give everyone a background, I'm from Santa Monica on the West Coast in California, Los Angeles. And at least in my community growing up, I would say it's a very left, liberal, kind of open sort of upbringing where everyone kind of gets along. There's a lot of it's diverse. There's Hispanics, Blacks, Mexicans, whatever, Persians, Asians, whites. I mean, it's all diverse. Let's just say that. So going back to the George Floyd protests, when he got killed and there was that whole kind of riot situation, there was, I don't know if you guys got this in Australia. I remember actually seeing a Channel 9 news guy there, but while there was a peaceful protest on Ocean, which is on the Ocean Avenue, there was hundreds of people peacefully protesting, and there were cops there, right? And they're like, Black Lives Matter, say his name, whatever they're saying. And the cops were there standing like they do, doing nothing. I mean, not saying they should have been doing something, but they were just standing there, peaceful protest, fine. Meanwhile, go Ocean, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Street, 4 streets down on 4th Street, which is considered the shopping and kind of central business district area for Santa Monica, at least. There were a bunch of people coming into these Patagonia, REI, jewelry stores, restaurants who were looting the city, and they were doing it for probably, it wasn't like a 10-minute kind of thing. It was at least for 45 minutes to an hour, and there was no police presence because they were too busy doing dealing with the, whatever you want to call it, protests. And it kind of actually hit home, at least for me and my friends and stuff, because you see all this stuff on the news, right? Where it's like, oh, there was a shooting and people are burning shit in wherever, Wisconsin. I think that's where it is now. And when it happened in my city, at least, it was kind of like, okay, first off, where were the police? Why weren't there any police where the looting was? I know they had to deal with the protest, but there was literally no, and they were tweeting to the police while it was happening. There was videos on social media. And if you go to the videos, a majority, as people would maybe think, of the people who were looting were of the Black community. And then there were other people just who were being scumbags, who were going in and stealing surfboards and nice Patagonia bags and stuff. And yeah, I will say this, people lost their businesses. It was a lot of damage to the community, and it was sad. But going back to what you said, I think the looting is terrible. I don't think anyone, especially people who have these small businesses, should be affected by something that they had nothing to do with. But I'm not saying it could be prevented, but it's these people that they've been trying for years, excuse me, for whatever, since the Jim Crow laws, since slavery, since whatever, they've been treated or mistreated, excuse me. And finally, people are, I'm not going to say they're pointing the finger at them now and saying, oh, you guys shouldn't loot, like, this is a terrible thing. But I mean, as sad as it sounds, this stuff would not happen if there was a better system there was a better system that worked, where the police and others would get along. And I mean, I'm trying to piece the words together, but I think a lot of people are trying to point the finger at the looters and the rioters and saying, how could you do this? You're terrible. Like, why are you doing this? It's like, well, so one of our people, the Black people, or whatever you want to say, excuse me, they just got innocently killed and murdered, and there's been no sort of penalty for the policeman, or it's a repeating pattern. It's repetition, and it doesn't seem to be there's sort of any like progressive change, at least in our country.
Okay, well, I think that there's definitely a couple of things there that we could potentially talk about. But I mean, one of the things that I would say is, while you can kind of understand why police aren't going to be defending against the looters and the rioters, considering the pushback in situations
Mhm.
where they do get in an armed confrontation and someone
Yeah,
dies, you can see already there's a massive push all across the United States to defund the police,
yeah.
which would involve layoffs and a whole bunch of people would be affected by that. There'd be way less security. So you can understand why police are hesitant to go in there, number one. Number two,
True,
I would
100%.
say I agree that there is kind of two factions from what I can tell within the protesting group, which is number one, the genuine peaceful protesters. And number
Hmm.
two, there's also from what I can see, it looks like there are a bunch of professional protesters slash people who may have been paid slash flown in to protest and cause damage. Um,
Hmm.
what I don't, what I want to get your opinion on is
Yeah.
you can see now Trump is gaining popularity in the polls, particularly over the past 3 weeks, directly as a consequence from the rioting. So you can
Hmm.
see that Democratic leaders aren't denouncing the rioting and the looting, and as a consequence, Trump is gaining popularity.
Hmm.
Does that in any way kind of inform or change the perception of the kind of the more liberal people to say maybe this isn't actually the best way to go about it, slash Black Lives Matter, the leadership of Black Lives Matter should be coming out and saying, everyone stop vandalizing and looting because it's
Hmm.
being totally counterproductive.
So I think the liberal side of things, as you said, I think people jumping the gun saying defund the police, and I think that is the wrong way to go about this situation. I agree with you on that. I think the one way the first step we need to take is education. And like, yeah, exactly, defunding the police. Like, okay, what does that mean? Take away all their whatever the money that they need for. No, we need police. Like, there needs to be some sort of law and order and protection, at least. Like, literally, the motto is to protect and serve. But going back to what you said about Donald Trump gaining popularity, I think the reason why the Democrats, or the Democratic side of things, at least Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever wants to fucking stand up and speak, they're kind of whatever you call it, their way of going about this is just to keep their mouth shut.
Mm.
I think that's the same. It's the same thing you've seen with the coronavirus, where in the span of February or March, when it first kind of kicked off. Well, it kicked off before, but we didn't take care of it. But I would say March to July, maybe. What are we in August? March to August. Joe Biden, zip. He's kept his mouth shut. You haven't seen any public presence of him. You saw him maybe a couple of weeks ago. His team and his method going about this whole election is just to shut the. Can I curse on this show?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Like, there's his little henchman who's probably smarter than him, kind of like a Ben Shapiro, but on the left, who's like, oi, Biden, zip it. Just if you speak, you're gonna fucking stutter and you're gonna make a fool of yourself. So just keep it low key. Let Trump do whatever he does. And the thing is, Trump will go out. Yeah, Trump will go out and say this thing about the looting and rioting and stuff. And I think the liberals are there. It's a twisted situation, because the left is not going to change their mind, and the right are not going to change their mind. Then you have the people who kind of stand in the middle, who are not hesitant to choose a side, but kind of like similar to me, who kind of see both sides of the spectrum and say, okay, well, let's justify the situation, see how we can work together, and okay, maybe Trump's right about this, but let's look at this. But people like Trump going out there and saying this stuff about whatever, oh, the rioters, they're terrible people, they're criminals and stuff. It's like, are they? Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. But I guess from my perspective, and these people I guess are tired, and there's no sort of way to express their frustration and hatred for the lack and fucking the government is just not there, and they're not implementing any sort of new rules or changing anything to make these people's lives better. And it's a part of America. It's all men are created equal. It's like it's the fine line between black and white is, you can see it on videos, at least in my country. It's sad, especially, like I said, everyone has one of these now. Look at the Rodney King shooting in 1992 or whenever, 1991, where that guy filmed on his fucking Super 8 or whatever of the guy getting the shit beat out of him. It's like, okay, that was what, 30 years ago. And now we're looking at that, and it's like, oh, damn, like now every other day we have a new video of violence from the police against the black community.
Okay, well, I think definitely a couple of things there. I think, as a general rule, in terms of statistics, yes, people are seeing more videos, but I think you have to wait for the investigation to be finished, right?
True.
So you've got
100%.
a situation where on the very first day that the video comes out of Jacob Blake being shot in the back, everyone starts protesting again, and we haven't actually had an investigation into what happened. But before we talk about that, the one thing I would say is that I actually agree with largely the spirit of the Black Lives Matter movement, in the sense that in a situation where police are gifted particular powers, which is what they are, they're given rights and responsibilities which go above and beyond what a normal citizen can do, which is that they've got the ability to make arrests, they got the ability to, in some states, stop and frisk someone, to enter someone's house, all that type of stuff. So when they abuse that privilege, 100%, I think it should be protested and it's stamped out completely.
Correct.
So I agree with that. But what I would say is that if they actually want to improve the kind of the situation in many of these communities, they're not actually advocating for policies which are going to fix it. So if you go into, if you look at the Black Lives Matter website, there has been, they have said they want to defund the patriarchy, remove the patriarchy.
Defund the police.
Defund the police. They've also got Free Palestine, support Yemen. They've got all these various other social justice causes which they've tied themselves into. And the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement are also actually trained Marxists. That's how they describe themselves, as trained Marxists, right? So you've got all these things on the side, which raises a natural skepticism. But if you go back to the 1940s and the 1950s, African-American unemployment, for youth unemployment, was lower than that of white people. It was actually lower. And the reason was because the minimum wage has now been raised so high that they've actually priced African-American youth out of the market. So the jobs that the African-American youth used to get, and Thomas Sowell talks about this, and I would encourage people to read his book, Wealth, Poverty and Politics, where he basically explains what happens to the African-American community as a consequence of the minimum wage and all these social justice reforms. He explains that African-American youth were doing better than white youth in terms of employment, but as soon as you brought in the minimum wage, because African-Americans had lower levels of education, it meant that they could never get the first job, to get the second job, to get the third job, to get the fourth job, which means that they're perpetually unemployed, right? And so when I go, if anyone's actually really serious about improving the conditions of living and reducing the cycle of poverty and unemployment, teenage pregnancy, all these various things, which absolutely should be number one priority, is that they should be advocating for those. They should be advocating for those policies instead of, in conjunction with, let's just say, police reform. They should be advocating for those policies instead of destabilizing the patriarchy, bringing down capitalism, standing with Yemen, all those other things. Yeah, it says to me that they're either not aware of the actual facts or they're not being genuine about their intended purpose.
I agree with everything you just said. I mean, I think it's also the way, going back to what I said with like social media, it's like, at least in America, especially the majority of the people I know who went to my university are all kind of fucking idiots. It's like I think it's a laziness factor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where I could be whatever. Let's just say I'm fucking daddy's little girl, rich girl from LA, which is a majority of the people I know. Oh, black square post, and my job's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I think it's going back, it's like the thing with the liberals of how this whole kind of PC and cancel culture and BLM, like it's gotten to the point where people think their voice matters, so definitely matters, don't get me wrong, but matters so much more than everyone else's, where they're not going to be wrong, you know what I mean? Where it's like I think it's like I said with the social media, it's like you can post. I have people who I follow on Instagram who are my friends at uni, and then they'll post 20 different fucking Instagram little stories with like this, fuck the police, this, BLM, like this. It's like, it's just like, and then when you see them in person, they don't whatever, talk about those issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not saying we have to talk about it every time I see them, but it doesn't seem like it's that important of an issue to them, at least because it's not affecting them.
Yeah.
And I think it's America is gotten to the point where everyone can just, it's not even the fake news shit. It's just like people will read something, get in their mind and say, holy shit, like that's the answer. Like I'm sticking with that. And then they'll post it on their social media account where their other friends can perceive it and say, oh, that's what that person thinks. And now like, oh, I'm either going to disagree. I know so many friends of mine who are like, who voted for Trump originally and like have whatever, don't like him, but are still Republican or whatever. But there's so many people who are just like, oh, like I'm not going to talk to that person. Like it's going back to what you said, sorry, I'm kind of tangent, but it's a laziness factor, and people aren't willing to put in the effort to find the facts and the data and the information that to back up their points, at least. And it's kind of just, I'll sit back, relax, share something on the web, make sure all my friends, especially with that shit now where you can see who's seen your stuff. It's like, oh, did they see my thing? Like, it's like, oh, it's just, it's kind of bullshit. And that's why, at least on my social media accounts, I've never ever shared anything about politics. I think that's a conversation you either need to have one-on-one or over Zoom, like right now, or it's a conversation, not sharing an article. I mean, I think that's important to share information, but people, the real people are doing their fact digging, but for the majority of our country, which is a bunch of fucking lazy pieces of shit, sorry to say, it's just like, it's pathetic. There's my whole ramble.
Cool. No, that's fair. Now you touched on Trump. People would know if they watch the channel that we are probably some of Australia's, you know,
MAGA.
well, yeah, MAGA, make America great again, but also like I would say we give Trump a way fairer crack than most. So you've obviously got the Clinton Gore 96 hat on. What would you rate Trump's performance in his first 4 years so far, 1 to 10?
Ooh, 1 to 10. Okay, how about this? I would say if we would have had this interview a year ago today, I would say I'd give him a 6.5. But since the last what is it? Fucking January. Let's just say since the coronavirus, he's slumped to a 4 because he did not take this pandemic seriously. And you could say, I mean, people can say all this shit about, oh, look at all the countries who did it right. And I know America has millions and millions and millions of people, but like, look at fucking Italy. They had a crisis. They had a spike early. They've solved the issue. I know they still have cases. Look at New Zealand. I mean, I know that's like 3 million people, but like, it comes with who's in charge and leadership and taking the first steps. And you knew when Trump's gonna say, oh, like they someone, hey Trump, there's a pandemic coming. Pfft, like, no, lies, fake news. Like, he's not gonna listen. Come on, you know the deal. It's simple as that. And then it's like he's like, wear the mask, and then he's like, oh fuck the mask, and then like, oh, wear the mask, and then mate, he flip flops like a sandal. He can't make up his mind. He's lost the plot. But going back to your first question, I'd give him a 4 out of 10, in my opinion.
Okay, we can go
And
back.
and the economy's fucked right now. Don't even play that card. It's done.
Okay, all right.
Unemployment.
Yeah,
Said unemployment.
Unemployment everywhere is pretty bad.
Yeah, especially in America. Go on. Next question or whatever you want to say.
Okay. So you give him a 4. That it's not a 0. So what is your favorite thing that Trump has done? We're just going to clip this bit. This is going to be the only bit that gets aired.
My favorite thing he's done. Well, my favorite thing he's done. I'm actually kind of stuck on that because, okay, like what the economy, our economy got a little strong. I actually can't even tell you. Like, because I don't here. Yeah, you can laugh. A is because I try to avoid the news to my best of my ability. I'll peep CNN here and there just to see what's happening elsewhere. But that's another thing too.
Fake news. You just need to get that fake news in your diet.
Exactly. No. It is exactly what I'm about to say. It's exactly that. It's who do you look for your news? There's your question. I have a family friend who I'm friends on Facebook who's a professor at NYU, and she's crazy, but she reposts a lot of interesting articles, especially on politics. So like I would say that Jane is her name. I get all my news from her. Okay. Because it just depends. If you're Republican, what are you going to watch? Fox News. Or if you're Democrat, what are you going to watch? Like CNN. If it's how you get your information going, like what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. And it's the way they skew the tailor it to what the audience wants to hear. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think the mainstream media has been fair to Donald Trump overall?
Fair, sure.
So do they accurately report what he says in the context of how he says it? That's the main question, I reckon. I'd
say 50-50, but I think he does it to himself. So I think he's, as we can kind of all agree, not the brightest bulb in the drawer. And he just, mate, if you had Scott Morris, what is Morrison? Scott Morrison?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had him get on the news and they're like breaking news, Scott Morrison, grab him by the pussy. Like, you think your country?
Come on, not this.
Mate, no, but no. I'm not.
Come on,
I'm not.
You do better than this one.
I'm not. No. I'm not.
That's a classic example. That's a classic example of a quote that got taken out of context and then rewound and played again. That's a classic. You just did the classic. You just did exactly what I said. Media does.
Okay. Well, those words came out of his mouth. The locker room.
Of course they did.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah.
But you got to put the context in there.
So what context can you ever say?
I'm not saying it's a good quote, okay? I don't like it. But what he was saying, he wasn't saying that you go up and grab them. He was saying that when you are rich and famous, women come up to you and they are throwing themselves onto you, and you can basically just do that. He wasn't saying you go out of your way to do it, right?
Yeah, mate, that you can't. I'm sorry to say, you can't say that as the leader of the most powerful country in the world.
But he wasn't saying that as the leader of the most powerful. It was like 12 years ago. It was in the back of a caravan, then TMZ picked it up. Are you saying you've never said anything like that?
Oh, ever? Mate, that's why I'm not going to be the president of the United States, mate. Because my track record's done. I've got enough fucking hits on me. But no, whatever you said. What was the first question you said?
My question was, does the media accurately depict what he says in the context of what he says it?
I think like I said, CNN, I think that's the most standard. I know they're a little bit fucked up, but like Anderson Cooper, like the shit he says sometimes. But I mean, you can watch some of his speeches though. It's like the things he said, like I'm sorry, like he was making fun of retarded people and stuff. I know you're
Again,
not gonna like that either.
no, that's not what happened.
Yes, it was.
He was saying the
Mate.
guy was stuttering. It wasn't about. Are you talking about the issue with Meryl Streep came up and cried at the
No,
Oscars
no,
and
no,
goes,
no. He
"Oh,
was no. He was talking about someone who's literally special needs retarded, and he was like, like,
are you talking about the guy
dude,
with the
you can't
hands?
like.
The guy with the hand issue?
No, it was a guy with mental health issues who
Okay, you're
was
gonna have to send that to me because
it was
I
the reporter. It was a reporter, I remember,
yeah,
and he
the,
I'll send.
yeah. The reporter had a gummy hand, okay, and then the reporter was stuttering and fumbling. And Trump always does this thing where he goes, "Oh," he does that about everyone. And then they said that he was taking the Mickey out of someone with a disability. I'm
Uh,
saying to
I'll
you, I'm saying to
I'll
you,
pull up the facts. Yeah, yeah,
100%, 100%.
yeah.
Look, I'm saying that there's stuff that he says I don't like,
True,
100%.
true.
But I'm
Yeah,
saying you got to pick the ones that are actually genuine. Otherwise,
true.
it's a case of the boy who cried wolf, and that's what it's gotten to now.
Exactly,
It's exactly what
exactly.
it's gotten to now. Is that everyone just goes, well, why would I believe the media anyway? Why would I?
Yeah, I also think it's also some of the policies he's put in place that have, like, I don't know, have negatively affected the environment or some there's like I said, I don't know all the details because I personally don't fucking watch the news, and I know I'm being a hypocrite of what I said where you need to find the information, but like, mate, I keep, like I said, I try to keep out of all this, and I think yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on this. I think the media, especially in America, is totally it's fucked because you can read one thing and you read the other, and then it's like I said, you either choose one side or the other, and people don't find the information that they should be looking for. Yeah, so
Exactly right. I agree.
I will agree with you on that, but I still think Donald Trump is a little bit of a fucking airhead, and has said some things that I've just sat there and it's like, especially, mate, he's the world leader of the fucking most powerful country in the world,
Mm.
and all the world leaders look to him for guidance and help and decision making between treaties and whatever it is. And you go up there and he's fucking shaking people's hands and doing this and like, it's like, mate, be a little bit more professional. Like, I know you're laughing at everything I say, but
No, I'm not laughing at everything. I'm saying to you, that cannot be your line of argument if you're saying he's a fallout.
no. It's not an argument. It's not an argument. It's just
This is what I find.
it's
This is what I find when you press people and the people who
yeah.
go, oh yeah, I got an issue with Donald Trump, and you go, okay, yeah, what is it? And they go, oh yeah, well, it's kind of like the way he carries himself around on the world stage. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's not really his job.
Nah.
That's not really his
No,
job.
no.
His job is to look
No, it
after the
isn't.
American people first. Everything else comes
Yeah.
second. Okay, I don't care
Yeah.
if he gets up there in a clown suit, and if he's delivering outcomes for the people of his country. Then that's
Mhm.
positive. I think people forget that the idea of being the prime minister or the president of your own country is not so that you can look good to everyone else. It's so that
True.
you can deliver outcomes to the people in your own country. And so obviously when
True.
people go, oh, the way he talks to other world leaders and the way he kind of like bullies other world leaders, I'm like, if you're delivering outcomes, I don't really care. I'd like to see a bit of mongrel. I like to see
Yeah.
leaders actually go out there and say, I'm actually not really interested in pleasing all the other leaders of all the other countries and delivering aid to all these other countries. I prefer to give the money to my own people. I go, I can get around that.
Fair enough. I respect that. And like I said, he's not my favorite. He's, as they say, he's not my cup of tea, but he'll fucking do, mate. I don't know about the next 4 years. I don't know if we should even go there because we're also in a fucking pandemic, and I think a lot of people have forgotten about that. And I know we can go on a coronavirus tangent, but it's pathetic, at least that's why I kind of left California and now I'm in Ireland right now. But it's like, it's people, they implement these rules for people to wear masks or distance, and then it's hard when half of the people listen and half of the people don't. And it's like, America, like I want to live. I want to like wear fucking masks. And then there's all the people who are like, oh, stay 6 feet, like wash your hands and stuff. And I don't even want to, we move on to the next topic, but it's hard when there's it's hard where half of the people, including myself, kind of want to live our lives. Like, all right, we've been on lockdown for 4 months. Obviously this shit isn't working. I've known like 5 people I know who have gotten coronavirus, and all of them have lived. And it's kind of to the point where like the stats even show, I know that the numbers may be a little skewed, overreported, underreported, who fucking knows, but it's like hard when they're telling you something, the government in your country, and then it's half the people don't want to listen and half the people want to listen. And then if you don't listen, you get shamed. And then it's just another fucking war that our country doesn't need. We've got enough problems. But yeah, anyway, that's my whole little tangent there. And I know New South Wales is killing it, by the way. Keep it up, boys. Doing well.
Yeah. Well, we're doing well. In fairness, I believe you should be able to go out and do whatever you want. I mean, I don't really believe
agree
in isolating the healthy people. I think you should just isolate the vulnerable and get on with it. We're basically saddling ourselves with an economic depression for kind of the next 5 or 6 years. I think, sorry to interrupt. I think if you do it for a certain period of time, I think whatever, that month or two, where it's like, all right, everyone just take the loss, do it for 2 months. Let's see how it is. They're like New Zealand or what some of these other European countries, like first off, our values and whatever constitution is like, whatever, free speech. Oh wait, can you hear me? Yeah. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Isn't it?
It said the internet's bad, but whatever. Yeah. And it's frustrating where sorry, I lost train of thought. Yeah, I agree with what you said. It's people, we should try it out for 2 months, and if it doesn't work, fuck it, move on. And if you want to wear a mask outside, wear a mask. It's like it's your call, but like you said, the economy tanking, jobs tanking. America's a shit show. No one should go there for probably another 6 months like me. I'm gonna take a little break and watch from the outside in.
I think give yourself a little bit of perspective.
Exactly, mate. It's what I need.
That's what you need. That's what we all need. All right. Well, I reckon that can basically wrap up the US politics. I reckon it's exhausting talking about it, but it needs to be spoken about. I find it emotionally draining.
It's I wouldn't say it's boring, and it's important to talk about it, but there's too much media, there's too many voices, it's a sensory overload of everyone telling you what to watch, what to listen to. Oh, I listened to a podcast, listen to this, maybe you'll learn. I watched this fucking CNN special. It's like, mate, I don't have fucking 20 hours in my day or whatever it is, 18 hours in my day. I'm not trying to, and it's every day. It's the same shit, especially when you're locked down and all you get is the Instagram story and the Facebook shit. Yeah, it's terrible.
Done. All right, well, that's it. Well, just listen to Carnage House. You don't need anything else, Kieran.
Yeah, I will, mate.
Carnage House. Now, speaking of, we should do our little NRL wrap. Now, you are one of the biggest NRL supporters going about in America.
Mate, I'm up there.
Give us a little introduction. How did you get into the NRL, and who's your favorite team?
Wow. All right. So, in 2016, when I came over to Sydney from the States to work on a movie for 6 months, the first thing I saw when I arrived from the LAX to Sydney airport, I get off the plane. I don't even have cell service, don't have a SIM card, nothing. Fucking talking to people, oh yeah, man, take this train, this, beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, all right, yeah. So I take the train, and the train's coming, and the first thing on the screen, because I think you guys have like TVs against the rail tracks or whatever. Yeah. The first thing I see, breaking news. It's like this hot blonde woman, like, oh, this is fucking Stacy from Channel 9 News, like Mitchell Pearce. And I was like, oh, Mitchell Pearce caught on camera fucking dog or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, this is the news they talk about? And it's the video. I mean, it's kind of blurry or whatever. And it's this guy who's like, whatever, tatted up, like fucking thug looking dude. And they're like bleeping out every other word. And it's him grabbing a little dog.
Yeah.
And he's like trying, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know the video. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's humping the dog. And I was like, oh my God, like that is unreal. Like that's the guy. So I later on find out, because I think our good friend, Mr. Steinberg, is a huge Roosters supporter. When I used to go to our other friend Jack's apartment, actually, it was yours too, right?
Yes, it was.
Wow, fuck. All right. Well, yeah, it was your apartment. Excuse me. Jack off lived on the couch. I forgot. And I remember we were watching about to watch the Roosters game, and I saw the guy, and I was like, oh my God, like that. And I guess, Steinberg put a lot of money on the Roosters or something. So I was like, all right, that's my team. Like, because I've as a lot of people probably don't know, because they don't know who I am. My family, my dad's Irish, my mom's English, and we are huge rugby supporters. And in the States, and I've been to 3 World Cups: 2003 Sydney, 2011 New Zealand, and I just went to the one in
Japan.
2019 in Japan. That was really special. So yeah, huge rugby fan. And then when I came to Australia, I was obviously heard of the Super Rugby with the Waratahs, right? So I was like, all right, I'm in Sydney. That's probably going to be my team. And you guys had Izzy Folau, R.I.P. You had Kurtley Beale. You had Foley. You guys had them all, right? And then I found this new game. I'd never heard of the NRL. I knew AFL, but I'd never heard of the NRL. So I finally caught on. And my friend, who was also living at the time in Sydney, who was going to St. Andrews in the University of Sydney colleges, something like that.
Drews.
He was Drews never lose. He was a huge fan of Greg Inglis, right? The fullback for the Rabbitohs. And he would always be like, GI, he's the man, like showing me YouTube highlights of him killing people and scoring tries. I was like, yeah, he's pretty good. Like, he's no Mitchell Pearce though, but yeah, he'll do. And then the last story I got to tell about my NRL thing is, one day I lived on Crown in Cleveland. If you guys know where that is, in Surrey Hills. And what's the stadium? I still don't fucking know. Is it Allianz? Is in the
I think it's the Sydney Football Stadium. But yeah.
But at the time it was Allianz, right?
SCG, yeah.
Yeah. So we bought tickets to see the Rabbitohs versus fucking who knows, the Bulldogs, let's say. And we were in my apartment. We went down to the liquor store and we're like, all right, we need to be so fucked up for this game. Like, it's going to be a cracker of a match, like first NRL. Like, we're going to buy jerseys. I went to an AFL game later, the Swans, and I bought a $140 jersey because they beat the fucking Kangaroos. Yeah, mate, come on. Money grows on trees. Just pick the right trees. And so there we are. We're in the fucking, we get a full bottle of vodka, and it's vodka and Coke. I have a humor-ass photo of my friend. We're just sitting on the floor. We finished the bottle of vodka, and we head down, and it's the Crown Hotel right on the corner. And we go in. They're like the pregame warm-up. We're like, yeah, we're hammered. The guy's like, oh, and we're like, yeah, we're going to the game right now. He's like, you guys are going to the game? And he's like, you guys better go. And like, didn't say anything else. He's like, you guys better go. And we were like, yeah, mate, yeah, we'll be all right. Thanks. And we start walking to Allianz, right? And we're getting close. We past the highway, and then there's like that big kind of like whatever divider between the two different lanes. And we hopped it, and like we see the stadium, and we don't hear any noise.
Yeah.
And we're like, fuck. Like, we see the lights on and stuff. And we're walking towards it, and we're like, there's no one in the parking lot. There's no any atmosphere. and we're out of our fucking mind. We're like screaming at each other, like, dude, wait, how do we get in there? And then we finally pull up the tickets, and we look, and it's at ANZ or ANZ, which is out in Homebush, right?
Yeah.
Because we thought, because it had an A and a Z on Allianz,
It was
and we thought it was ANZ.
Yeah.
And that was that. And I never have been to an NRL game.
Really?
We ate the $40, $50 tickets, got hammered, and then I think we just went to the pub and did pokies, and then fucking that was it. But yeah, that was that funny story. But this, so now, sorry, I'm going on. I had to tell that story. I thought it was pretty fucking funny. This year around, in March, when we had the lockdown in America, as you guys probably know, they shut off all American sports, baseball, basketball, college, whatever it is. March Madness. You guys follow that, or is it not?
Yeah, I watch the basketball, so I watch a bit of March Madness.
So March Madness canceled. Everyone's like, fuck. And then so we're like, fuck, there's no sport on. Finally, like, NRL, Cooper Gronk. Like, what the fuck? I was like, to my friend because we're not degenerate gamblers, but we like to throw a couple wagers here and there. So I was like, oh, hey, mate, my friend Keegan in the East Coast. I was like, dude, fucking NRL. And he watched a couple sevens with me back in the day. And he was like, is it sevens? I was like, no, it's NRL. It's rugby league. You're going to love it. And he's like, all right, fuck it. So we realized that all the times of the games were at 2:30, 3:30, 4:30 a.m. So we're like, fuck, like there's no way we're going to stay up. So then I did some research, and we bought a Fox League whatever pass.
Yeah.
So we pay, I think, $30-$40 a month do you guys subscribe to that, or you get it on the television?
I do KO's good.
KO?
I think it's like 26, but you get all sports. You do?
I don't
know if it's cheaper if you just run a VPN through Australia and then do
it there.
That might be.
I think you need to have like a home address or something,
or a phone number
verification.
Number or something. Maybe.
But we did. So we bought this membership. So what we've been doing for the last March, April, May, June, July, 6 months. Swear to God, since the first week back, we didn't have jobs because we were all on unemployment. Thank you, Donald Trump.
You got that stimulus check,
mate.
That stimulus
like I said, money grows on trees.
Well, that's got to be your favorite thing so far for Donald Trump, surely. Then a little bit of cash money.
Yeah, but the only downside to that, at least, is the tax man's gonna come knocking on the door in a couple fucking months, and people think it's free money and they're gonna spend it all on credit cards, whatever. Fuck yeah, I'm pretty excited. Got a couple coins, but we bought that, and what was I talking about? Fuck you, just
So you bought the subscription.
Bought the subscription. So what we've been doing is it's been allowing us to wake up at normal times, whatever, 9, 10, and 11 a.m. And the subscription allows us to watch the full game without telling us the score. So we can go to sleep, we can place our bets at night, and then the game will happen, and then we can wake up and watch the whole game. And yeah, I would say, honestly, the NFL is pretty good. There's a couple problems because everyone's fucking head breaks at the end, but I would say for the type of sport, at least the Americans like, is action-packed, fast, hard-hitting. That's why I like hockey is very popular. Yeah. I would say the NRL is the best fan experience. And I'm not even at the game, but I would say the commentators are so invested. Funny chat. Wow, hey, like really, you don't get that in America. You watch baseball, it's like, and it's a fly ball and it's an out, and then it's like, they play the organ. It's fucking boring. NRL, fast, action-packed, people hitting each other, dynamic runs, tries, couple punches thrown here and there. And what I've actually caught on to, which is, I don't know why they don't do it in union, the refs. I know there's a couple of their names. Name some ref. There's some popular refs, right?
Jared Sutton.
Yeah,
Plumbing,
Sutton and
the Badger,
these
Harry
guys
Mara.
know all the names of the players,
Yeah, correct.
which I'm not surprised, but I'm impressed because
Yeah.
it's like if you hear the game, that's another thing. You got to have the volume up when you play these games
Mm.
because you're hearing the refs say the tackle. There's all that chatter that now that the fans are back, I mean, you get that kind of atmosphere. But it's really cool how the refs have that uh, connection with the players. Like he's like, oh yeah, like hands off Tedesco, like Morris up. Like
Yeah.
it's really it's makes the game and watching as a fan even better. And I'm shocked that it hasn't become popular in the States yet.
Mm. I
I
hope
think
it does.
the Jared Hayne thing.
Yeah. It was a flop. It was a flop, but you know what? Good on him. Good on him. And that's coming from a Parramatta fan. Now,
Wow.
you talk about the fan experience.
Yes, sir.
You happen to be talking to one of the biggest champions of
Yes.
the fan experience. There's nothing
Wow.
more I believe in than the fan experience. And
Let's hear it.
well, what we've done is we've actually managed to give some of the give the fans a voice through Eels Fan TV, right? Which I believe you've seen a couple of.
Just a few, maybe all, but yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Eels Fan TV or Fan TV in general?
I think it's a great idea. I think you guys are executing the interviews very well. I think it's cool how the editing's hilarious too. Whoever it's doing, is that you or your brother?
It's my sister.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, she's a gun.
Yeah, I would say the way that you can do the little flashbacks of like the families in the past and then seeing their reaction this week. It's cool because I'm fucking whatever thousands of miles away, but I kind of feel like I know them almost.
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of whack, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see how people. I think one thing that you could maybe do if you're able to get in, I don't know if you have these people's contacts, but at least the people who are reoccurring, or see what people's opinion. Obviously I think everyone's going to have the same view maybe in the beginning of the game, and like interview before, like people walking in. I know people don't really want to get interviewed maybe at the end, but say like, hey guys, like we just want to hear like, what do you think, what's going on? Oh yeah, mate, gonna fucking Guther's gonna fuck it. Like, and having something like that where you can get there, and then if the Eels get smashed, a
bit of pre versus post. That's a good idea. Yeah. That's a really good idea. Yeah. Definitely. No. I think that's definitely and it'd be a nice little before versus after.
Yeah, and maybe like if you're really lucky, I don't know if you can get into the games, but like even during like halftime, like what do you guys think? Maybe just like a couple brief clips, like what do you guys think? Like, oh yeah, like they're looking good, but the Tigers, man, like they're gonna come back, they're gonna pass you. Like it's something to get, because people, I would say too, at least in America, I mean, you guys get on the piss or the beers, as we say, the beers in America. You guys obviously are a drinking country, where you go to Dodger Stadium or you go to any of these games. First off, at least in Los Angeles, everyone has to drive. So B, I don't know how expensive they are in the stadium, but for a beer, a standard, whatever, schooner, pint, whatever term you want to call, you're looking at 16 to 18 US dollars, which is what, 22 to 24? Yeah, mate.
That is insane.
Mate, you can get a domestic beer, which is like a Bud Light, Coors Light, Budweiser, 15 US. And then if you want the premium draft, like the local whatever, the IPA, which is still domestic, 28, mate. It's, you can look it up online, look up Dodger Stadium prices, and I think like people don't get that. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a better thing, but people don't get that fucked up in America at these sporting events. I think maybe the NFL, because you tailgate for hours prior and then you go in and then like it's a long, but it's also it's also a long event. These like baseball's
Baseball in
3.5
particular
hours.
is long.
It's a doozer. And like the NBA, you got to drive to Staples Center. You got to pay $25 for parking. You got to like bring a date, and like you got like who's driving home? Like, oh, I've already dropped 300 on the tickets. Like I need to drop another 150 on drinks. Like it's fucking expensive, man. That's why my family, I mean, my dad hates the Dodgers. He's from San Francisco. Originally grew up there, and like we don't go to Laker game. It's expensive. If you want to get fucked up and enjoy the game, you might as well do it at your own house. You get a flat screen, you get the boys, you get the beers on ice, and you can do whatever you want at your house. Where it's kind of NRL, I feel like, especially these fans, mate, they're bleeding the yellow and blue in Parramatta.
They are.
It's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are some good tips, and I think we'll definitely try and implement those. Get a little bit more of a story for each episode happening. Get a little bit more continuity. Is there anything you want to leave? I think that will basically wrap it. Is there anything you want to leave the Carnage House audience with? Any closing remarks from an American looking at Australia, or from an American looking at America?
Yeah, I'll say a couple final words. Listen, at least from my experience in Australia and talking to friends in Sydney, or wherever it is, mostly Sydney, because I've lived there once, if not twice. I think you guys, at least the issues in your country, you guys are, I think I hear a lot, like Scott Morrison, you hate him, right? Everyone fucking hates him, right? Or is it no. People like him?
Well, it's like 50-50. It's like
it is. So is it the same as America?
Pretty similar. But historically, it's been conservatives have, I think, won like 65 or 60% of elections, something like that.
Okay, I would just say, I know you guys have your own social issues, and you'll always have disagreements on values and whatnot. But I think for your country, especially, I think for the most part, you're doing a good job. And even if you are complaining and stuff, I'll tell you what, America has it a lot worse. And I think, because I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot in the last year, and in my lifetime, even now, not even in Ireland right now, it's funny when I interact with other people from foreign countries, and there's either two perspectives they have on an American. It's either, oh, like, you're from LA, like what's it like in Hollywood? What's it like at the beach? Like, where's the Kardashians? There's either that, where people aspire to move to America, think it's so amazing, which it is great. But then there's people who are also say, like, oh, like, do you have a gun? Are you going to shoot me? Like, making in a sort of joking manner. But it's almost sad, at least as an American, to have people like associating yourself with this stereotype of, like, oh, are you a racist? Do you hate black people? Do you want to shoot? Like, it's a little sad, at least from the foreigners' perspective looking in on America. I think there's, like I said, two sides. It's either, oh, I love America, I want to be in America, like West Side Story, or it's like, oh, are you Trump? Are you going to shoot me? And it's sad. I would just say, for the audience in Australia, wherever you get your views from, if you get any, no, I'm kidding. I would say you guys are doing the right thing, on the right path, and give it a couple years. I think America will have some, if not most, of our issues sorted out. I'm hoping for change on both sides of the spectrum, some unity, some community, people finally having their voices heard, not on Instagram stories, and showing that we love our country. And yeah, those are my final remarks. And I'm sad that your borders are closed, because I'd love to move back to Sydney or Australia. I think you guys have a wonderful lifestyle, good people, good weather, good beer, good women, good sport. And go Roosters, man.
Go the Roosters.
Sonny Bill's coming in. You know it's coming, mate.
Yeah, well, you need all the help you can get, I think. Well,
Wow.
Kieran,
Mate,
thank you so much for coming on. You're flying
of
the
course.
Carnage House flag in Dublin, but also in America. We appreciate you, part of the Carnage House family. He's getting red pilled every day, listening to us. So we appreciate we appreciate that a lot. Thank you for coming on, Kieran.
Mr. Cameron, like I said to start the interview, always a pleasure.
Never a chore.
Let's make Australia great again and get the Roosters another grand final.
That's it. That's it. Thank you, Kieran.
All right, guys. Take care.